Hey, Lisa, Nancy Armour, USA Today Sports. What I asked Caitlin about what she wants to see, the game, the continued growth after she leaves. What do you want to see, and do you have fears? That you guys had 12.3 million the other night. Do you worry that if those numbers go down, that that people will look at that negatively or make a negative judgment about that next year?
I mean, I think, excuse me, my voice is gone, and I don't know why. I just woke up this way, but I apologize. I mean, I don't know if we can sustain the numbers we had last Monday night for a whole season, right? I mean, we're at the climax right now. We're at the end of the season. Everybody's watching us right now. So I think that's pretty special. But I do not think that our game is going to go down. I think there's too much great young talent. I think there's unbelievable coaches in this at this level, and I think the world has caught on to what they've been missing. I think our game has been really good for a long time, and I think people just have missed the boat on it. And now we finally have had the exposure, and people have understood, wow, haven't watched women's basketball for a long time. I've missed something. And I don't think they're going to want to miss anymore.
We're going to stay to our right, go to Lindsay, then we will move to our left, and then I'll come back up front.
Lindsay Schnell, USA Today. First, Lisa, I wondered, are you and Jan going to wear matching outfits again? It was a winning strategy last year.
We better check. I don't know. I don't know what she's got planned.
What I really wanted to know was Caitlin's point about, playing with a lot of joy. It occurs to me watching the entire women's tournament this year that is a word that you can associate with a lot of players. And I wondered, do you think that any of that joy is them being excited that finally so many people are paying attention to this game and people are seeing their talent and their passion, and it's just all coming out? It seems, not to take anything away from the men, different from the men's game.
Yeah, I don't know if it's now that they realize that people are really paying attention, because honestly, when you're playing the game, you don't know that. Like, you're just in the moment. A lot of people wrote to me after last year and said that, man, your team played with such joy. They gave us joy. They gave us hope, getting through a tough situation. I got hundreds of emails and text messages about that. So I do think it's something our team has always played with, and maybe people are just noticing it now. I've always wanted our team to play like that. Like, this is a game. Let's have fun. Let's play for each other. So I don't know if it's now because of the media. I feel like we've always played that way.
We're going to move to our left, Coach, and Doug, please proceed.
Hey, Coach, Doug Feinberg, the AP. Two-part question. The first one is, with the sold-out crowds you have everywhere, I'm curious as a coach, and you talk about losing your voice, how do you get play calls that people can actually understand on your team, knowing that there's 17,000 screaming fans going on? There's hand signals. How do you actually make sure they know to run what you want them to run?
Yeah, I actually have a really good coach's voice, just not today. I really am very loud in calling those plays out, but I do have hand signals too. And so they, and through time, sometimes they kind of know what you want them to do at this point of the season, but I definitely use hand signals too.
And the second part is just, ask Caitlin, what did you learn last year in the Final Four as a coach? Like, okay, this worked, this didn't, as far as all the outside stuff going on to get your team ready to play tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's one mistake I made between the two games last year that I've learned to going into this year is there are so many other distractions, and you have to protect your emotional energy. And it's really hard to do when all these people are around you, whether it's parents or people asking you for tickets or this media obligation or that. You can be exhausted by the time the game tips, and especially when you're talking about tomorrow being a 9:30 tip. I mean, right? A lot of us are usually in bed by then, so it's really hard, right? So I'm really cautioning them on that. I'm talking about it more. You've got to protect yourself. You've got to figure out ways to invest in your emotional energy, whatever it is for you. But I'm not having the team be required to go to so many off-site activities as I did last year.
We're going to move to our right, Coach. Please proceed.
Emma Baccellieri, Sports Illustrated. Lisa, you've been with Jan and Jenny for so long. What has it been like to experience the last 2 years kind of as a trio? And just what does it do for you as a coaching staff to have that core know each other so well?
Yeah, I think it's made it more special to share it with these guys just because we've been through so much together. You know, one year my husband and I were celebrating our anniversary, and Dave walks down the office hallway carrying a bunch of flowers, and Jenny yells out, "Hey, I've been with you 25 years, where are mine?" So it's really true. We are like a family. It makes it so much easier to go through the bad times when you have people that you really care about, but it makes it that much more gratifying when you get to go have these good times together.
Coach, I'm going to zigzag again. We're going to move to our left, the gentleman. If you could raise your hand so the mic could get to you. I'll come back up to the front. I see you, James. I see you, Jonathan. I see you as well, and I see you, Cassandra. I'm going to try and fit everyone in as much as I possibly can in the next 5 or so minutes.
Lisa Cameron with The Athletic. I'm curious, as you mentioned, you don't want this to be Paige versus Caitlin, but when you look at UConn, Nika seems to do so much for them. When she stays out of foul trouble, it just seems like it helps Paige so much. When you watch them, how much does she dictate what UConn can do?
She is such a great point guard in that she plays so hard defensively. And I think she'll be guarding Caitlin. And, I mean, she uses her size. She's such a smart basketball player. It does kind of relieve Paige of some of those duties, in my estimation. But, it's like she doesn't really have to force things or create things. She kind of is doing what is there and available for her. And I kind of think Gabby Marshall does that for us. Plays extremely hard defensively, doesn't have to make points to be validated, but we'll take them if they're there.
To our right.
Coach Justine Fernandez, Big Ten Network. This UConn team likes to play up tempo. Iowa likes to play up tempo. How will you look to control the pace of play?
I think both teams feel like they're ready to go. I mean, at this point of year, we've both played a certain pace, a certain style all year long, and I don't think now is the time to really adjust what you do. You just go out and do what you do. And so, we like to play fast, and we'll try to do that again on tomorrow night.
Going to go to Cassandra, and then we'll move to Jonathan, and then to James. I'm going to try and fit all of you guys in. Let's see if we can do it.
Cassandra Negley with Yahoo Sports. You've spoken recently about how Caitlin has really complimented her teammates, and you really think it helps boost their confidence. Have you seen more of that from her this run compared to last year, and how do teammates react to this year versus last year?
I think she's learned that through her Iowa journey on how to be a great leader. And a great leader builds up people around them. And I don't think she knew how to do that when she first came to Iowa, because maybe, she wasn't around as good of people. But then she learned, oh, these people are pretty good. And so now she's learned how she can use her voice to give other people that ability to play freely. And I think she's really learned that through her journey at Iowa.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Tannenwald of the Philadelphia Inquirer. In the past in women's basketball, we might not have seen the mass exodus of journalists that we saw when the players walked out the door, because the coaches were such the dominant figures. And a lot of them still are, obviously, but in this particular moment, the game is very player-centric in terms of the spotlight. And I wonder what you make of that. Thanks.
I think that's the way it should be. I mean, they're the ones out there, doing the hard work. They're the ones out there with the, trying to be mentally focused and doing unbelievable things. When I look at Caitlin and what she does, I mean, it's absolutely amazing, as we all know. Her shots, her passing, her ability to elevate at the highest level on the biggest stage. Those are the people we should be paying attention to.
We'll stay to our left.
Lisa, you and Caitlin have both mentioned here that this moment that the game is having could have happened a while ago. The quality's always been there. Maybe just the exposure wasn't. I'm just curious, as someone who's been in the game for a long time, how have you seen the coverage of this game evolve, and how important is that?
Extremely important. I mean, I think we have had, I think people should have been talking about women's basketball for a long time now, and they finally are. And maybe it just took some superstars, like Paige and Angel and Caitlin in order for everybody else to understand and how good our game was. I think they should have been talking about it for a long time. So I think the media exposure has helped our game tremendously. And I'm glad, hey, I come from the Big Ten, and we were one of the first to have a national network. And I think that kicked everybody else off into doing it as well, all the other Power 5 conferences. So I credit the Big Ten for kind of making that first initiation with a network right away.
Any additional questions for Coach? You have a follow-up, James?
I'm just curious. We know how it is now. What were we missing in the coverage before? Like, what was it like? What would this room have looked like, I don't know, 20 years ago?
I wasn't here 20 years ago, so I'm not really sure. But I mean, obviously the media attention has grown, the viewership has grown, as it should have been. So I don't really know how to answer that question because I wasn't here.
Coach, we have one final question to our left. If you could raise your hand so she can get the mic to you, please.
Yeah, Andrea Adelson with ESPN. Lisa, I know you don't want it to be about Caitlin and Paige, but I'm just curious, in watching the tape on Paige, you saw her earlier in her career, where she is now, and everything she's gone through to get to this point. Where do you feel like she's grown the most as a player, and then how do you try and defend that?
I've seen Paige play since high school, so I mean, she's a Minnesota girl, went up to her open gyms and such, and so I know her. She doesn't know me, but I know her obviously and her game. What's always impressed me is her ability to, stop on a dime and elevate with her shot, and she's already got such great size. But I would say, like Caitlin, she's grown in her team aspect. Just having really good players around them and relying on those other really great players and not having to do everything yourself. Like she had a good high school team, but right? Now she's got great players all around her, and so she's been able to incorporate. In the last 5 games, she's averaging almost 5 assists a game. So she's giving up the ball as well as her scoring has increased. So I think just, her ability to play alongside other people is what probably has changed the most.